And so while the subsector organizations will continue dealing with their subsector issues, when it comes to national cross-cutting issues, issues of income tax, issues of electric power like the hydro, things that, transformational projects that affect the whole of the country, things like the Marriott was a big issue on our agenda, because we know we needed transformational projects like the Marriott, like getting Americanized to come to Guyana, like the development of our international airport. Those are transformational projects that the private sector would advocate for. So while individual organizations would deal with their subsectors, that's what the Private Sector Commission does. So I'm the chairman of the Private Sector Commission of Guyana. We could only serve for 2 terms at any one time. I actually served before in 2009 and 2010, and I am what my colleagues like to call a war room chairman. So coming up to these elections, they've asked me again. So they've elected me to serve during this period, and particularly because of my background, of my experience with elections, of my experience in national security. And these are all things that are on the front burner right now. I must tell you that the Private Sector Commission is not dealing with anything to do with business. And I say that tongue in cheek, because everything we do got to do with business. But in the sense that we are not dealing at this time with the specifics of business. We are dealing with the environment of business. And the environment of business is a stable economy, is a lawful economy, is an economy where every one of our citizens, regardless who they are, must live within the confines of the Constitution, of the rule of law. And as a country, we must embrace fair and free and credible elections. And so those are things that the private sector is very obsessed with. And we've been obsessed with it for the last year and a half, unfortunately, or year and a couple of months, since the passing of the no confidence motion. And we have seen a particular tenacity on behalf of our ruling party to take some particular actions that cause us some serious concerns, looking at the way the Constitution was interpreted and the Constitution was handled and the rule of law was handled and so on. But we've come a far way since then, and we are, 2 days away from elections now, 3 days away from elections. And we believe in the private sector, we have no concern, we have no preference on who wins these elections. The only uncompromising position we have is that the rule of law must be supreme, respect for the Constitution must be uncompromising, and credible and fair and free elections, peaceful elections, and acceptance of the results of those elections must be, there's no compromise. We have very zero tolerance for any deviations from those things. So whoever wins these elections is fine with the private sector. We just want to live in a lawful society. And why do we want to say that's so important now? It is particularly because with the advent of this oil, you see, right now our politicians are sitting on a $3 billion economy. Barbados is $8 billion, Trinidad is $21 billion, and Jamaica is $14 billion. We are a $3 billion economy. Not for long. Very, very shortly, this economy is going to be $15 and $20 and $30 billion. And so, to prevent us from becoming another Venezuela in this region, we need to have politicians that will live within the confines of the Constitution. The Constitution is the only safeguard that citizens possess to protect them from rogue politicians. So we need a Constitution that is respected by every single citizen of this country. And so that is why we are so obsessed with this now, because with the advent, if you have politicians that is prepared to misinterpret or reinterpret or re-engineer the Constitution, with the advent of what is before us, with the enormous wealth that is before Guyana, Guyana will start to attract new kinds of criminal minds. Criminal minds follow big money, and they will wreak havoc in this country. With the collapse of Venezuela next door, and the syndicate is developing and the cartels developing in an environment where law and order is chaotic, and Venezuela is now almost like a failed state. If Guyana do not remain law-abiding and constitutionally compliant and democracy, and Suriname, who president is now indicted, if we have three countries bordering the Caribbean, sitting on the continent of South America, collapse on the other side of the rule of law, on the dark side of the rule of law, where chaos reigns, criminal minds will take advantage and wreak havoc. And let me tell you, the Caribbean national security and Caribbean stability and Caribbean economy is dependent on every single individual country in this region. And so if Guyana fails at this juncture, Guyana is about to become the job market of the Caribbean. Guyana is about to become the economic breadbasket of the Caribbean. We are going to be able to create jobs for thousands and thousands and thousands of Caribbean citizens. But if we went crazy, if we are not law-abiding and democratic, then Caribbean would have lost an amazing opportunity, and particularly the United States, that is paying specific attention to what is happening here in Guyana. There are going to be hundreds and hundreds of U.S. companies operating in Guyana. And if Guyana does not remain law-abiding, people will use Guyana as a weak underbelly of U.S. national security and hurt U.S. businesses in places like Guyana. And so we have to protect Guyana. Guyana is no longer backwater in the Caribbean. Guyana is actually on the front burner. And Guyana actually is the future of the Caribbean. Never before have we seen an economic explosion in the Caribbean like you'll see in Guyana. People keep saying, oh, we're going to be the next Dubai. We're going to be better than that. We are really going to be better than that. And the fact that we're the only English-speaking country in the continent of South America, and the fact remains that it's not only the oil that will do this, it is the superhighway that we built from the borders of Brazil that will come through the rainforest at Deepwater Harbor on the Atlantic coast of Guyana. As the Brazilians start to develop their northern states of Brazil, where the manufacturing sector is going to be in the states of Roraima, the logistics lines back to the south is 800 miles, as they gain 300 miles through the rainforest at Deepwater Harbor, the Atlantic coast. So we are going to be opening up South America into the Caribbean through that road and that Deepwater Harbor that will bring people to the Caribbean and bring Caribbean people back to South America. As a country, we have made a terrible mistake. We have looked to the front for our future, and we should be looking to the back. We have ignored Brazil all our lives, and no more should we do that. So we've already built a $6 million bridge across the river, of the Earring River, the Takatu, and we now have to connect that superhighway where the container trucks will bring the raw material for the manufacturing sector in northern Brazil from the Deepwater Harbor, and then bring the finished product back to that Deepwater Harbor to go to the marketplaces. And it will open up along that roadway. It will open up amazing lands for development, for housing. Barbados, people in Barbados will now have lands that is bigger than Barbados. We could actually put a barge and pull Barbados into the Essequibo River and allow Barbados to live right here. There'll be amazing development along that roadway for housing, for forestry, for development, for tourism, for manufacturing, for natural resources. This is going to be 350 miles of a road, amazing roadway to this Deepwater Harbor. So even without the oil, the Brazilians are already looking at Guyana to develop hydro power supply for the northern cities of Brazil. Because before now, they used to depend on the Gerry Dam in Venezuela, in Portudal, and that Gerry Dam is now silted. They haven't been maintaining it. So the northern cities of Brazil have been actually suffering from serious power inefficiencies. So the Brazilians are looking for a new hydro system to power northern Brazil. They've identified it in Guyana. It's a $15 billion project that will power northern Brazil and will also help power Guyana. And so we have amazing deposits of manganese, of gold, of diamonds, of uranium, amazing forestry. So even without